And you're being live.
Very good. Good morning and welcome to today's specially called meeting of Maryland Sports Wagering Application Review Commission. I want to thank the commissioners for making time a week earlier than planned when we last met, as staff members revised and updated the draft regulations and applications that we discussed a short time ago. The updated draft materials were sent to us a few days ago for us to discuss and act upon today. Maryland sports wagering law created our commission for licensing businesses to generate state revenue from the newly legal industry, and in so doing, to the extent permitted by federal and state law, to actively seek to achieve racial, ethnic, and gender diversity among the licensees. Over the past year, we've heard extensive legal advice regarding constraints on us in so managing a licensing process. To avoid further delays, we have asked staff and our professional team to draft regulations which exclude race and gender-based license criteria. And in an effort to achieve diversity among applicants, the updated draft regulations for consideration today stipulate that each applicant include at least one individual entrepreneur. Each new mobile sports wagering license applicant and each new Class B facility license applicant must demonstrate that at least 5% of its direct or indirect ownership is by individuals with a maximum personal net worth. The personal net worth amount, which is $1.8 million, is the same as that required by the federal regulations used by the Maryland Department of Transportation for determining disadvantaged business enterprise qualifications on behalf of many state agencies. The amount may sound high, but it is commensurate with the complex sports wagering compliance requirements that go with managing large amounts of cash. In addition, in the draft regulations, you'll find that since our last meeting, some non-substantive style and formatting changes were made to the earlier drafts. Some redundant application questions were eliminated, and a definition for full-time equivalent employees was added, since that number is one of the criteria that differentiate Class B1 from Class B2 applicants. As we've discussed at several earlier meetings, SPR is legally required to conduct an industry analysis to determine whether there is a legal basis to implement race or gender conscious measures in the application and evaluation process. SPR is still awaiting review of a draft industry analysis by entities including the Office of the Attorney General. When that process is completed and we have considered that input, there may be changes to the regulations and applications. In the meantime, if we approve the regulations today, our commission can submit them to the Maryland Legislature's Joint Committee on Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review for emergency approval, as we discussed at our last meeting, and then begin the public comment period. Prospective applicants will be able to begin compiling their submissions using these draft applications, along with the existing lottery regulations and the probable SPR regulations. And they may use lottery's e-licensing portal to submit the information required for background investigations. Once the emergency SPR regulations become effective and the industry analysis is completed, SPR can set a date when formal applications and fees may be submitted. Then we'll be in a position to set a timeline for additional actions. So with that, I asked for approval of the agenda that was submitted in advance of this meeting, so we can then proceed. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. The agenda approval is moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. The agenda is approved. So our next item is to have a discussion and vote on the proposed sports wagering regulations. And for that, could I ask Jim Nielsen from Lottery to address us?
Good morning, all. So you've covered quite a bit of it, but the changes that have been made to the regulations since the last meeting, there's a number of stylistic changes, things like capitalizing the word applicant throughout, and then there's 5 substantive changes. The first one is the inclusion of a definition of personal net worth, which you talked a little bit about. We also changed the requirement for submission of the application to the e-licensing portal for the lottery background investigation. It was within 30 days after submission to SPR. We've made it 14 days because people have had an opportunity to start those applications, and we think that 2 weeks is enough time without causing further delays. The third thing is we added another definition for full-time equivalent employees. That number is needed to determine whether a facility applicant is going for a Class B1 or Class B2 full-time equivalent employees as part of the criteria in the statute. We added a requirement that applicants need to provide information about disciplinary actions and fines they may have received in other jurisdictions. The lottery and gaming will have this information anyway as part of our background investigation, but we thought it was important for SWARC to get the information as well, so you can see the history of the various applicants. And finally, we added the equity ownership requirement of 5% as the chairman just described. So those are the changes that have been made since the last version. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
So I invite commission members to chime in. It's been a long journey to get to this milestone, and we've had a lot of good professional input and advice to proceeding here, recognizing the constraints on us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as a member of the subcommittee, I just want to reach out and thank all the staff and the TAF folks. This has been quite a slug to get us where we are, and we've spent countless hours creating these regulations and applications. So kudos to all.
Sure.
Well, there's plenty of heavy lifting ahead. We know we're looking for quality teams to take on sports wagering in our state, and we hope that we've laid the groundwork here for good people to come forward to take this on.
Well, if there's no further discussion, I would like to make a motion to approve these regulations.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Randy.
Second, Bert.
Thank you, Bert. So any discussion of these regulations? Like we've said, it's been a slog to get here, and I think everybody's had time to chew on what's been drafted. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the regulations are unanimously approved by those of us present. And by the way, I would add that I have had the chance to speak to the 2 commission members who weren't able to be with us today due to schedule conflicts, and I believe they're very well informed and supportive of what we're doing. All right, with that, the next item on the agenda is
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
can we move to the second motion?
Oh, I messed up. Okay.
No problem.
I'm happy to make that motion to submit the proposed regulations to the Joint Committee on Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review.
I'll second.
Thank you, Laura. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, approved unanimously. There were 2 for each of these. I got it now.
Right.
Okay.
And the last one, Mr. Chair, if you could make the motion about the delegation of authority for the staff to make the non-substantive changes so we can submit them into the ELF system for the Maryland Register.
Gotcha. I had that for doing it at the end, but
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to make that motion to allow staff to make non-substantive changes.
do I have a second to that?
I'll second
motion
it.
Or not? Thank you, Laura. Again, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you,
Any
Mr. Chair.
opposed? Very good. I think we've got everything covered. All right, then our next agenda item is the applications. And for the applications, may I ask the TAF team to please address the commission?
Good morning, commissioners. It's good to see you. Thanks again for the time and the quick follow-up. Like you've just heard with the regulations, we obviously made, instead of disregarding them, we thought it was best to make the applications match the regulations. So what you see before you are, again, the same applications you'd seen before with changes. The primary changes, again, as Mr. Nielsen had said, were really in the instructions was trying to order the stuff in a streamlined way so people hopefully understand how to submit the applications to SWARC as well as to the Maryland Lottery Gaming and Control Commission, deleting some duplicating questions, and for really consistency with the regulations. The substantive changes, as Jim had mentioned, were the full-time equivalent employee definition for the facility licenses. In both of the applications, of course, the new ownership requirement that was race and gender neutral, which again came from we tried to mirror some of the regulations that the Maryland Department of Transportation uses, which refers to some federal regulations of determining disadvantaged businesses. The personal net worth definition, just as a quick aside, does mirror that same definition with one exception. In the Maryland regs and also the Federal Register, when you're calculating personal net worth, you're entitled to include in their regulations $500,000 of your qualified retirement accounts. In doing that, you're required to do a present net value calculation of the amount in those retirement accounts, and then also deduct from that calculation any expected or estimated interest and penalties if you were to withdraw those funds early. I'm hoping that sounds complicated to everyone here because we likewise thought it sounded very complicated. So our net worth definition, we just excluded all 100% of qualified retirement accounts in determining our personal net worth calculation. Otherwise, it does in fact mirror what we've seen in other Maryland regs. I just want to make that clarification so we don't get comments afterwards that they don't match. But that was the intent. The final change that you'll see is obviously we've attached as Exhibit 2 or Attachment 2 to the applications, the Memorandum of Understanding. This is just a quick reminder, all applicants are required, or all awardees of licenses, I should say, are required at the time that they're awarded the license to enter into a memorandum of understanding with SWARC that essentially says if that applicant in the future intends to raise funds, it'll use good faith efforts to seek funds from minorities and women. That's statutorily required. It's been done with all of the A licenses that have already been issued. So it's not new, it's existed, it's just now attached to the applications. So that's the differences between them, and I won't hold you up any longer. You can go forward with business, but those are the differences.
No, that's not a holdup. This is very substantive. Again, I invite Q&A on the part of commissioners who haven't otherwise been parties to the sausage being made here. I think a lot of effort's been made to measure twice and cut once, but we'll
I
see
think
what
we measured more than twice, Tom.
Well, there have been a lot of gotchas thrown at us as we've tried different scenarios. So I hope we've come on the right right path here.
Well, hearing none, can I make a motion to approve the application subject to completion and review of the industry analysis?
Do I have a second to Randy's motion?
I do have a question though, just to make sure. Could you expand upon the rationale for excluding the retirement from your net worth calculation? Because it seems like by doing so, you are unintentionally eliminating otherwise qualified candidates, because people's retirement accounts are really should be sitting pretty good now. If they may want to invest those funds elsewhere.
Kim, you want me to take that, or?
Sure, if you like, that's fine.
Yeah, it actually operates the other way. What we were trying to do was to broaden the group of individuals, of entrepreneurs who would qualify. And so by excluding all deferred pension accounts, we make it, we lower a person's net worth. If you included them, they may be above the 1.8. And we were looking to broaden the group of people that could be included in this 5%. So by excluding the pension assets, we have more people who qualify. So that was the idea, because it's a ceiling, it's not a floor. So if you exceed that number, then you are excluded. So by excluding their assets, we lower their net worth, which is what our intention was. I know it's counterintuitive.
The negatives is a challenge with a
it's counterintuitive, but the idea was to expand the number of entrepreneurs that would qualify, and one way to do that was to lower their net worth. So by excluding their pension assets, you lower their net worth. It's maybe saying it without too many negatives.
Thank you for the clarification.
And this definition is consistent with the Department of Transportation's disadvantaged business, correct?
Correct. In their determinations of what qualifies as a disadvantaged business, they have a calculation of net worth for owners. And we've used that same definition with that one exception on the pension accounts.
Okay, so that is different than their definition.
Yes, in their definition, they count as an asset up to $500,000 worth of someone's qualified retirement accounts. We've said we will count $0 towards your assets, again, to broaden the scope. And the theory also being that, most of us don't have access, or most of the entrepreneurs we suspect don't have access to some of those things in those accounts until you hit obviously retirement age. So it wouldn't be available to them without substantial penalties.
Correct.
as liquid assets.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think similarly, the DOT regs exclude personal residence. So, that.
And we do as well.
And we've cut and pasted the same kind of consideration.
Thank you.
Again, the goal is to broaden the pool.
Exactly.
Get more people able to be in that 5%.
Very good. All right, James, are there any more motions I'm supposed to ask for?
Well, this one is still on the floor. We didn't get a second.
I didn't do the vote. Okay. All right.
I made the motion.
I got you. So we had Cassandra's question. Thank you. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Cassandra.
Thank you. All right. And then any further discussion then? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. All right. I believe that concludes the agenda items.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. So the only thing left on the agenda at this time is the next scheduled meeting. We do have a meeting scheduled for July 20th at 9 o'clock. It's whatever your pleasure is. Do you want to go ahead and keep that meeting or cancel it, since we made this meeting in lieu of the 20th?
So towards that end, I would just ask you guys, what should we as a commission be looking to next? What triggers our next actions? Should we be concerned about the timetable, about the resources for vetting, dealing with whatever application material comes in? Should we just be awaiting this emergency, legislative process? What's next for us?
Well, after the July 20th meeting, the next scheduled meeting is on August 17th at 9 o'clock. That's on the third Wednesday in August. So by that time, hopefully we will have had a decision by the AELR committee on the emergency regulations, and we may have further updates from regarding the industry analysis. So if you want to go ahead and cancel the meeting on the 20th and schedule the next meeting on August 17th at 9 o'clock, we should have additional information for the commission at that time.
I'm unavailable next week anyway.
Yeah, but that sounds reasonable to me. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any significant business for us to try to conduct on July 20th, and that's why I was asking the question. So
I agree.
I believe it's appropriate then that we plan to reconvene on August 17th, and if circumstances change, just as we scrambled today, I'll muster the gang if that situation so arises. Does anyone think there's a need for a closed session before we adjourn? I don't know of anything that we haven't otherwise dealt with. So hearing no need for closed session, do I have a motion for adjournment today?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Second.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Bert. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor for adjournment? Say
In
aye.
August.
Thank you, everybody, for everything.
And on behalf of the staff commissioners, thank you for your indulgence and flexibility in setting these meetings, special meetings.
Amen.
Absolutely.